Gala Fray, Skaro! Hello, everyone. Welcome to Radio Free Skaro, episode number 942. I am Stephen in Edmonton.
Warren in Vancouver.
And Chris in Edmonton.
On this episode of the podcast today, on your favorite podcatcher, or on radiofreeskaro.com, or on YouTube if you're watching us there, part one of our Michael Ferguson Miniscope.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Talking about the director's work on The War Machines and The Seeds of Death. Yep. There we go, Seeds of Death. So that's coming later today, which we thought was going to be the only thing happening on this podcast up until about 24 hours ago. But then the Gallifrey One schedule came out. It's been released as of today, I guess we'll say. So as we're recording this on Saturday, January 20th. So this will be old news by the time it comes out, but it literally just came out when we got on the podcast. But just confirming that on 11 a.m. now, not 10:30 a.m., 11 a.m., Gallifrey One, More Than 60 Years in the TARDIS, our live show with special guests Sagan Akinola, Kevin John Davies, Annette Badland, Kevin McNally, Sean Dingwall, and Jay Griffiths. Main stage, Program A, with Chip, the 2-minute Time Lord, February 16th, Friday at Gala Fray 1. We won't go into the schedule too much right now because that we save that for our official Gallifrey One preview show, which comes up.
And I know Sean has toiled over this very, very diligently, but there's always a chance things could still change as well. So.
Well, I mean, Lala Ward had to cancel, so that was a late breaking change as well, which probably threw a wrench in the works a little bit, which is why we're now 11 a.m. as opposed to 10:30. I will say that I'm doing two other things at Gallifrey One. Interviewing Jacqueline King on the Saturday, I think it is, 1:30 p.m., I think it is. Jacqueline King, of course, played Sylvia Noble, but I'm also moderating the commentary on the Friday for the Star Beast with Rachel Talalay, director Jacqueline King, and Brian Herring, who does the puppeteering for the Star Beast, the titular Star Beast. So that's going to be fun. Love the commentaries. Love doing the live commentaries. So that's going to be fun. But yeah, more, all the details, Gallifrey1.com. You can still get tickets, I believe. I don't think they're quite fully sold out, but get them now, please. Get them now, because as I often say, this is the 34th Gallifrey One. We sure as heck aren't getting 34 more. Enjoy them while we can, folks. It's the greatest time.
Just before we move on, neither Warren nor I are doing anything beyond the RFS show this time.
As of right now, yeah, that could change, but who knows? But
yeah,
as of right now, it's just
that could change. But Kat is going to be doing the interview for Matthew Waterhouse.
That's right.
And as I say lifelong for as long as she's watched Doctor Who. Adric fan.
This is important accuracy there.
I mean, well, yeah, accuracy is best.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, yeah, no, she's doing the Matthew Waterhouse interview, and that's
right.
It's gonna scare her and excite her in equal measures, I'm sure.
And the Brian Herring, are you allowed to go watch her still? I mean, how is? I know that for a while she was nervous.
Yeah, I wasn't allowed to watch.
Yeah.
The Waterhouse one, I'm sure I'd be okay with.
Yeah.
Brian Herring, he's the Worth guy, right? No,
Puppeteer.
Puppeteer.
Just mentioned him. Yeah. He's on Star Wars commentary. Yeah, no, it's right. Nick's a lot of names out there. Yeah. Anyway, he is the puppeteer.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll have to ask her. I haven't asked her yet.
Also, there's a Sunday brunch version of Verity in Defense of as well at 11 a.m. on the Sunday. So
okay.
Yeah.
So
that's back on.
I think so much for not talking about this in great
Yeah,
detail.
yeah. Throw a little
And then
highlights here and there.
neither us nor Verity are doing a meetup. Is that correct?
I don't think so.
No, there's a
I know
podcasters meetup
we're
at
not,
some point.
but yeah.
No, we're not. There's no official RFS meetup because,
Yeah, podcaster meetup I went to last time,
yeah.
and obviously saw a lot of people we know, and met some new folks as well.
I mean, the entire thing is
might
a
go to that
meetup.
again.
The entire con is a meetup. So.
Yeah, exactly. Like our meetup is like lobby or wherever you can catch this kind of thing. Is kind of what our meetup is, spread out over the whole weekend. It's I'm just looking at my watch here. It's -15, which is the warmest it's been in this city
Plus
for like
3.
a week and a half.
+3 in Vancouver.
So honestly, anything that's going to be outside, because the past couple years now, I've done most of the RFS interviews outside in the sun, and it's been great.
Yeah.
It's my new favorite tradition. So expect more of that as well when we go there.
I joined you for one or two of those last year, and
with
as long as the weather holds, then
Simon Garrier,
good.
who's I want to point out his David Whitaker book
very nice,
arrived
very nice.
from. It's look at that sucker. Look
That's
at that.
huge.
That's giant.
Big.
It's sort of similarly disappearing there a little. Looks like,
That is up for a British Science Fiction Association award. It's on the long list.
I saw that. I
yeah.
saw Simon tweet about that. That's why I wanted to make mention of it here. That this just arrived this past week. So it's giant. It's giant. Well done, Simon, on that. There's
I might pick that up at Galley if it's on sale, which I'm sure it is.
I don't know if this is from 10 Acre Films. I don't know if 10 Acre Films is sending stuff.
Well, if it's there, I'll buy it, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Like there's
Well, Simon will be there. He might have some copies to sell.
That's true too. Yeah.
look at this book. That's a luggage full of like a big giant book.
Worth a shot.
It's a big book. Very
Or
exciting.
just get it off Amazon. Who knows?
I don't think it's on Amazon, Warren.
Well,
I got it direct from 10 Acre Films because I like supporting the independent publishers. So it just,
I like guys who send people into space in air quotes for about 10 seconds and then they come back. William Shatner, in fact, goes into space.
I'm also looking forward to. It's been delayed until February, which I don't know if that means that it's going to time their release with Gallifrey One, but from Telus Publishing, David J. Howe's outfit, the production diary for the first Doctor era by David Brunt is coming out, and that's something that I've been looking forward to a long time. And if that is at Gallifrey One in the dealer's room, then I will happily grab that and throw it on the pile of books that are made especially for me, like the one about David Whitaker.
You mean the pile you haven't read?
Yeah, like this is something that I would pour through, but it's a book, and so therefore that's the barrier. Because
I
mean,
I know
it's just blasphemy. I can't hear that, and I'm just disgusted. My place is choked with books,
I know.
some of which I've actually read.
Dave and Sam will be there, and they always bring stuff to sell. So
So I'm hoping that,
as long as it's actually there in published paper form, ready to go, I'm sure it'll be there.
Yeah, aka proper way to read a book. Says the guy who just bought about 10 Star Trek novelizations for 99 cents each for his Kindle. So
on a Kindle. I know you've been a proper book form person. It's funny, Warren, because you chastise us.
No, I don't chastise. You self-chastise.
Playfully chastise us. Let me finish. In our pursuit of physical media in DVD and Blu-ray form.
Oh, okay. I see where you're going.
But then there's you with like, nope, it's got to be a paper book, and so I feel like, go on.
I don't chastise you for wanting a physical form. That's fine of DVDs. I just don't have the gumption to keep chasing and going through the agonizing wait that you guys keep going through for these things. I'm like,
still waiting for
I
BBC
see
Shop.
this endless text chain of just crying, and I'm like, why would I put up with this? I could just not do it.
I know. I got it. So part of me puts it in our little group chat just to annoy Warren. Just
Well,
so
it
he
worked because
picks up his phone and sees 58 notifications.
Scroll. Still,
Yeah.
all of this is saying I haven't got my DVDs yet. All right,
Yeah.
there's more. Okay, you still haven't gotten them.
And as you alluded to, still no updates from BBC Shop. No communication to say what's happening.
None whatsoever.
Generally, books show up.
Nothing.
That's what happens.
Books usually show up.
Nothing.
The big giant huge set that BBC Shop is waiting to ship out. As we mentioned a couple weeks ago on this very podcast, those of you who have ordered the big giant series 1 through 13 box set, if you haven't heard from the BBC Shop yet, we haven't either, but I did phone them and they said, there's production delays because there's problems with the physical actual packaging. like discs being broken and the spindle being broken. So yeah, it's
all too much work for me. Whereas a book, boop, order, done, the end.
And well, I'm sure the base set problems are a one-off. I mean, like a fool, I still wouldn't put another order in at the BBC shop for season 20 and season 15 and Daleks in Color and Toymaker and whatever upcoming stuff.
Yeah, I'm kind of holding off on that a little bit until I see how this is all sorted out, but that's for another day.
Normally I go through Amazon, but Amazon prices are like $10, $12 a disc more. And when you're getting 4 or 5 at a time, I mean, 40 or $50 is nothing to sneeze at.
Can add up. So anyway, the Gallifrey One schedule out. Gallifrey1.com. You can check the show notes for that. We're recording this January 20th, Saturday, January 20th, a.k.a. the 90th birthday of Tom Baker.
Here's to the GOAT.
The absolute legend that is Tom Baker. There has been, I mean, he trends on Twitter like at least twice a month. Everyone just say, oh no, was something wrong with Tom Baker? No, now it's just his birthday and everyone loves him.
90. Well
90
done,
years old.
Well done. A guy who's been obsessed with death since he was like 20. And yet it just won't come for him.
It's amazing, isn't it?
How old was he when he bought his own gravestone?
Oh, like early 90s? Maybe? I mean,
was it that recent? I thought it was longer ago than that. So
it was.
So he'd be in his 40s or thereabouts.
No, he was in his 40s when he started the show. He
was 40 when he started the show. He's just about to turn 41 when it premiered.
Amazing to think of. Like, he was 40 in the 1970s.
It amused me when I, not to name drop, but one of the times that I interviewed Louise Jameson, he said about how, she said, at that point when she was on Doctor Who, like he was obsessed that he was going to die and gave away all his possessions and literally had no home. He was homeless. He did not have a home. He slept on other people's couches because he thought his death was imminent and he only had a toothbrush in his pocket. That is the eccentric that Tom Baker is. And then here we are 50 years later.
Another half century later,
he's still kicking. Graham Kibblewhite and Jack Kibblewhite and John Dorney put together a great little video advertising the Fourth Doctor range on Big Finish. But it's great. Links in the show notes for that is a really wonderful thing. Read by Tom, just a short while ago, actually. And, you can tell the age in the voice, but still Tom, man. Still Tom Baker.
I have a question about this picture of Tom on Bessie that we have here with us.
Oh, sure.
I'd never noticed that hand before.
Yeah, the hand's been there.
What the hell is that for?
It's a horn. It's a horn. Yeah,
I never noticed that before.
It's been there since the Pertwee days.
Oh wow! Okay,
you could track the progress of the hand horn trigger like you could the spiral staircase, I guess, in the background of.
I'm not going to do that. That seems silly and the sort of thing you'd do. But
yeah, probably. Anyway, there's lots of great stuff on the internet on Saturday about Tom Baker's birthday, and some of it is linked to the show notes for you to look at yourself. Celebrating there's a big thing that Big Finish put together, people wishing him a happy birthday, including Stephen Moffat's in there, wishing him a happy birthday as well. So that was kind of nice seeing all the people.
Doesn't look like the hand is there for the. So for the Battlefield.
Oh God, what have I done? You're zaprudering hands.
No, I know it's gone by Battlefield.
I wasn't sure if it was there for Battlefield or not.
It's certainly not there in the Mind of Evil because he's honking the little, or in the Demon. So it's after season 8. I can say quite confidently.
Especially since Tom Baker was after season 8 as well.
Exactly. Yeah. So I don't think it was put on for Robot is what I mean to say.
Right.
I think it was on before, but I don't remember where.
It seems like the kind of thing that would be thought a good idea as, how do I put this? Mind-altering substances entered the lexicon. Let's just put a hand on there.
Let's put a hand on there. Yeah. Like I guess you squeeze the hand and that's what makes
it just seems odd.
Squeeze it, pull it.
Unlike everything else about Tom Baker's Doctor, that seems odd.
Yeah, well they never never used the horn.
You just did.
Yeah, they never used the horn with the hand on the show, as far as I know.
That was the hand of fear.
Only to try to scare away the Nymon.
That's true. Squeeze the hand
for the horns of Nymon.
Oh, I get what you're saying now. The other big news that was breaking on the Friday was a report from the Mirror that Millie Gibson is out as companion in Doctor Who. I put down, this is to not feature in season 2. She will be in season 2, 3 episodes worth, and then Varada Sethu will be the new companion. So says the Mirror about this.
Usually right. So
yeah, Nicola Methvin wrote this up. I have to say that for several weeks now, I've been hearing rumblings that Millie Gibson was going to be out after that first season. I don't think she's been cited as much shooting stuff. I'm not too sure on location and things like that. But the Mirror reports that she'll be in 3 of 8 episodes. They're basically filming the wrap up to Ruby Sunday's story, according to the Mirror. Again, I'm just quoting what they're reporting here. And that Varada Sethu, who was in Andor.
Yes.
Most people might know her from Andor. Which is where I know her from, I think, mostly because she was in that. Will be the new companion. There we go. There she is in Andor. She's as part of the ragtag group of rebels in Andor.
Who take down that Imperial base. Oh, spoilers.
Yeah, that's the one. Spoilers for Andor, but yes. Do they take down the base?
Yeah, they F it up pretty bad, actually, as I recall.
I kind of want to watch that show again now, but anyway. Chris says no. Anyway,
Blandor.
Your thoughts on the news from the Mirror, because you're often skeptical about these type of reports.
No, I'm not skeptical about these type of reports. I'm skeptical about fan lunacy, about Ace is coming back or whatever, which she did. But
right,
but Susan is whoever the hell, right? I mean, that kind of thing. That's what I'm skeptical about. The Mirror is usually right, and a companion being around for one season is not unprecedented. So
no, it really isn't. Yeah. Yeah, I know. Yeah, the troubling thing is the Mirror going dropped. Billy Gibson dropped as if she was
that sounds clickbaity.
Fired or something, and that does not feel the case to me. Especially like you look at the in-vision commentary for Church on Ruby Road, which they recorded like October.
So she would have been done by then, yeah.
She would I don't sense like a animosity-filled relationship between Russell T Davies and Millie Gibson.
Russell T Davies is a consummate showman. He's probably good at hiding his feelings when it comes to this kind of stuff. If there's anything there to begin with, but there probably isn't. But
true, yeah. Chris, what do you think about the reporting of this news? Do you have any thoughts to offer on this, or?
I don't know. I mean, the first things we heard were like 2 and done for both Shudigawa and Millie Gibson, and
right.
I mean, it's not like you have to give up one to have more of the other or anything. But I don't know. Nothing against Millie Gibson, but I'd rather have more Gatwa than Gibson.
Yeah,
I guess. But
we're gonna get plenty of Gatwa one way or the other. I mean,
yeah.
I don't know. I think that's part of the problem with things being recorded as far ahead as they are. Because I know, like some article I read, I can't remember if it's one that's linked in the show notes later, but like they're doing final like VFX mixes now for season 1, and so there's like lots of post production, so that's why they need to shoot as early as they do. But as Warren, you alluded to, this is kind of Eccleston like.
Yeah, a little bit.
We saw one episode of Eccleston before we knew he was leaving. We've seen one episode of Ruby Sunday, and now there are rumors of her leaving.
Not quite the same level because it's not a doctor, but yeah.
No, but by the same token, it was also between episodes 1 and 2 that were a week apart for Eccleston versus 4 or 5 months apart for Gibson.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, it's like anything else. Well, I'll believe it when it happens. If it does happen, it's not like I have any control over it. We've seen one episode of Ruby Sunday, and as fine as that has been, and as charming as the family dynamic is, and with what's her face in bed, Cherry in bed is lovable Grouch and whatever. Like there's some good foundations there, but I don't have any attachment yet.
I don't know. That is a god tier grandma.
Yeah, it's great. It's a great, one of the great Doctor Who grandmas, really, when you think about it. Yeah, Shudi Gatwa on Instagram on Saturday sort of showed his support. My little Gemini twin, I think that's the astrological sign for Gemini. which means Millie Gibson is probably Gemini, because Shooty Gatwa likes his astrology. And so, like, I don't know if that's like support or just like, I adore her, and then maybe that's an indication that, yes, she's gone. And, and other people have been like, I saw Tom Spilsbury tweet out that, that's, good. Best of luck to Millie Gibson on her future stuff. And, Tom Spilsbury's like ex-DWM editor, so it's not like he would sort of throw around tabloid speculation as fact. So,
yeah.
And even like there's an interview with Millie, who I shall forever call Millicent.
Because you're weird.
Because it's fun. Is she sort of mentioned about like what will you do now that the actor strike is over? And she's, I'll probably do a lot more auditions and do this. Like it was very much like Doctor Who in the rear view mirror kind of chatter. Kind of reminded me when Tosin Cole was at Chicago TARDIS in whatever year that was, and I interviewed him on stage, and it just felt very much like Doctor Who is definite past tense here, even though nothing had been officially announced at that point. So,
who's the longest running? It's Fraser Hines, right? It's got to be
Fraser Hines in terms of episodes, certainly, because
Clara for overall calendar duration.
Yeah, like, because Clara was, 2013 all the way until
2012? Snowman,
yeah. Chris Snowman, and then up until
2016?
2015. End of 2015.
That all the whole Capaldi era is like, it seems like it happened later than it did, if that makes any sense.
I mean, actually, time-wise, it's Mandip Gill, Yasmin Khan, who is like the entire duration of the Jodie Whittaker era. Really,
point.
Duration-wise. Episode-wise, it's Fraser Hines. That's going to be tough to top because there weren't 42 episodes per season anymore. Yeah. So yeah. But a companion never lasts as long as all that because they get too damn smart for the show, and then
Sarah Jane's iconic, and she was in 2 seasons, really? When you break it down, more or less,
2.5,
three and a half.
Not 11, that 12, much, all things considered.
13 and a bit.
3.5, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but she's still, the companion. So
she's still the companion. Yeah,
at least to old jerks like us.
Yeah. So, yes, take it with a grain of salt. It is not an official BBC release, but the Mirror is frustratingly often good.
They have a great track record for this
inside
kind of
info, and
especially Nicola Methman herself.
It's like TMZ,
specifically.
Terrible platform, but they're usually right
about deaths of people.
Yeah, well, yes, but TMZ is great at getting you the info, but you got to look at TMZ to get it, unfortunately.
Yeah, so I don't know who the sources are when it comes to getting this stuff out to the Mirror, but it does seem kind of accurate, especially when when they're actually pinpointing a specific actor. Who I think is older. Varada Sethu is 32, and Shooty Gatwa only just turned 30. Sorry,
I just don't mind me. I just crumpled it into dust. It may be audible on the microphone.
Oh, I tweeted. Speaking an aside about crumbling into dust. I've been watching season 3 of The Simpsons recently, just having on the background while I edit podcasts, and the episode Lisa's Pony came on, and this is an episode that premiered on. November 7th, 1991. Oddly enough, the day that I watched the first ever episode of Doctor Who for the first time. Anyway, that's aside from that. Homer Simpson is trying to buy Lisa a pony. And she says, I'll just write out this check for $500,000. And he goes, and Mr. Simpson, this check is dated January 1st, 2054. 2054 is closer than 1991 is when that episode originally
I call that
aired.
depression math.
2054.
Oh, dear God.
Anyway.
That's enough of that.
That's enough of that. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I mean, so basically we have a potential new companion all ready to go and an entire spin-off, which is starting shooting in 6 weeks' time, The War Between the Land and the Sea, neither of which have been announced by the BBC. So everyone acts surprised when this stuff happens.
To keep who happy? Exactly.
I don't know. It's just that things get out there, and it's, you can't put it back. You can't put the toothpaste back in the tube, and that's where everything is right now when it comes to sort of some big news around the show. Got
it. There's a lot of toothpaste all over the place. Got it.
Yeah, exactly. So, the BBC though, just to keep Doctor Who in the public eye, have sort of said, put out an article about what to expect from Shooty Gatwa's first season of Doctor Who. Just a rundown of things.
They have not said anything.
No, it's just a summing up of stuff. You know, we've got we got Jinx Monsoon, who I think is probably turning up in the Beatles episode 2, The Devil's Chord.
Well, with the music stuff would make sense.
Yeah, right.
Like the outfit, the music outfit and such.
Yeah, like is Jinx playing a villain that comes through time to destroy the Beatles and their inaccurate drum sets, and is that how that works? I don't know.
That's why that drum set's inaccurate. They're way ahead of you, Steven.
Well, yeah, it's an anachronistic drum set is why, and that's probably
Ringo's a time Ringo's a time lord.
Well, he is in a way. Is he? Not really.
No, probably not.
He traveled under the sea. They also mentioned Jonathan Groff, who's of course in that Hamilton thing. He's in that Regency episode, by the way, according to the trailers, because you can see him. He's in that. I think so too is Indira Varma, who plays the Duchess. I think she's seen in the trailer, the season 1 trailer. I think she's in the same thing.
Somebody's called a cad by Shooty, which is I'm all for it. Whatever else happens in that episode, he called somebody a cad. I'm down with that.
That's true. So yeah. So anyway. There's other people on there too, like Lenny Rush as playing Morris.
Thank you. Yes.
Was not seen in the trailer at all.
That's true.
Yeah, so I don't know what.
So he's the big bad, actually, of the entire.
He could
series.
be the big bad, and then of course Mel is back as well, and then we got the unit folk, including Anarin Barnard, playing the mysterious Roger App Gwilliam, which they announced at the time.
What the hell that is?
No, I don't know what that means.
He's actually an app.
Chris mentioned it because it's like it's the name is like Arthurian or something, isn't it? Or something like that.
I am Anselin Ap Gwalchmai, Knight General of the Britons.
There you go.
That was a sentence, all right.
It's from Battlefield.
Oh, that's right. He mentioned it Battlefield. That's right.
That's from Battlefield.
I don't care.
I call
Lenny Rush was on the New Year's treat episode of Taskmaster.
Was he really?
I've now actually seen him do something. Not an acting gig, obviously, but
I saw
actually seen him do something now.
Yeah, I saw clips of him from Children in Need, and
he was very funny in that.
Yeah, he was very funny, and he was in that show that I can't remember the name of, but he looked very funny in the mashup of that stuff. So. All that to look forward to, and Millie Gibson, of course, who is in the full season.
For now.
For they've edited her out. Disney Plus comes back saying, edit
just
her out.
Bad posterizing of her. It's talking to nothing.
Yeah. What else is in season 1? Well, Joel Collins, the producer, says expect some Easter eggs and an amazing ending, quote unquote.
Okay, sure, you bet.
Yeah, he says in the interview in SFX magazine, which is coming out this coming week. But a clip of it, a preview of it, was on the SFX website. So, yeah, there you go.
Amazing ending equals cliffhanger to me.
Probably, right?
Especially if you're wrapping up Ruby Sunday's story in the next 3 episodes, then.
In the next 3 or 4 episodes of in the second season. But there's a Christmas special, which apparently, according to the Mirror article, Millie Gibson's not in.
Oh, interesting. So, okay.
Although that could mean anything, because the Pawns weren't really in
Christmas specials. Wardrobe.
Yeah,
well, they're in Christmas Carol, but
or barely in the Christmas Carol when you think about it.
Well,
true.
They're there for a reason, though. They need to be there for him to rescue them. So,
and by the snowman, they were dead.
Wow,
that's true.
Bit of a buzzkill there, Chris.
Yeah, that's odd now that I think about it.
Only just, but
yeah, that's odd now that I think about it. The Pawns were never really in any proper Doctor Who Christmas.
Well,
specials.
they hated Christmas and, in fact, God. So
that's true. That is very true. The BBC also tweeted out earlier this week a somewhat curious image. This is another one where Warren's going to chastise me for speculation.
I like this speculation.
Right?
I want to subscribe to your newsletter.
Okay, well, the newsletter that I'm making up is that they tweeted out the Doctor's going to need more salt, and then it says Ruby, there are powers, and beyond the universe, and there's Jinx Monsoon. The first image looks like a weird creature. Need more salt with the little eyes going that way. Does that not look like perhaps a modern interpretation? Of
maybe.
The Fendal?
Maybe.
Whoa.
And I'd be happy to see the Fendal come back if they do it as well as the original, which I doubt they will because it's the Fendal. That's an amazing bit of TV making.
It is a little bit. Well, you're just thinking of Wanda Ventham in Gold.
No, I'm not. It's actually, the atmosphere is tremendous.
It is really good.
Fendal.
Yeah.
It's so, like, it's so tense with nothing, with literally chewing gum and toothpicks. Like they make an insanely tense story.
Yeah.
Rusty Davies can do that. Midnight is like that. There's a bunch of stuff. So sure, but also it's not the Fendal themselves. It's, as usual, fans scrambling to find something, anything in the garbage pit over there that might possibly be old Doctor Who.
Mm-hmm. But Chris,
does this mean the robots of death are coming back? It's a circuit.
Yeah, but Chris, you're on board with this? You're on board with my initial speculation?
I'm on board with it, and as I was saying before, I mean, Salt, unless it has something to do with Jinx Monsoon, Salt is a very specific reference for Doctor Who lore.
Yeah.
So I think there's a possibility of some momentum behind your theory.
Yeah, there's a possibility, and I'm all for it.
Right.
But also, I just can't stand it when fans just grab on anything old just because they have no imagination.
Oh, I know. I mean, why hint at something that they don't know about? That's the thing.
We know about the Fendal. Does the average person who started watching Eccleston or whoever, they have any clue who the Fendal is? Should they? No, probably not.
It's definitely not like we got Sea Devils in late Jodie Whittaker story, or the Toy Maker and
well, okay, yes, but
David Tennant's
Sea Devils weren't used very well.
Star Beast from a 1981 comic or whatever year it was.
All fair. I'm not saying it's not going to happen. I'm not saying I'm against that.
Certainly nothing old has ever crept into more recent Doctor Who warrant.
That's not the point. The point is fans are annoying in that they, like Susan, for instance, the never-ending Susan debacle. Just stop.
That you can blame Peter Capaldi for, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, he really played that up a little bit in that one appearance at Doctor Who Experience.
Well, that just illustrates my point. Fans seeing that, glomming onto it, building it up in absolutely nothing.
The thing he did with all those kids at that was a museum or whatever, that wasn't the only time he brought Susan up. It was more than once.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, like I said, if you want to bring Susan into this, either blame Peter Capaldi or keep her name out of your
I'm going to
mouth.
make a very bad analogy, which is this is like fans are like American gun laws. Hey, a gun, better fire it. It's just lying there. Better do something with it. No, just let it sit there. It's unsafe. Leave it alone.
That's okay. I'm not gonna. that's not a million miles away from the reaction I get when I look at a Google alert and there's always a YouTube link. To some fan rant about this or that, or blowing some benign news article out of proportion, or
exactly, yes, usually for clicks and hate.
It's absolutely for clicks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like get that ad share revenue.
So it's just the general atmosphere that annoys me, not the actual idea of it.
Yeah, no. The one thing that RTD said this about, I think the Toy Maker actually, and that he was like writing a thing and like he wanted to have like a enemy that came from like outside the universe or something is more, wait a minute, that's basically the
if it fits.
Or like when he was doing Gridlock, he says, oh, what if there's like a big giant creature on the bottom of the thing that breathes gas? Wait a minute, that's the Macra. I'll just use
those are a little more stapled on.
He backs into it, and I feel like maybe like some weird creature that you're because they've kind of established now that like superstition is a little bit more.
And it's a lot
in the universe now,
It's also a hell of a lot easier, especially with something like Doctor Who, with the amount of stuff out there, the length of the backstories. But it's a hell of a lot easier to pluck Macra out of thin air and retrofit them into this gaseous, thing. Than it is to try to come up with something new.
Hey, if they come up with a great new modern Fendal story, I'll be front of the line to enjoy it. But it's just all the fan idiocy that gets on my nerves.
Yeah, and it's and looking back at the Macra, it was he says, oh, it's the Macra, in the same way that the Doctor would say about, oh, it's this thing that we've never seen before, but the Doctor knows about it, and that's the important thing. The Doctor didn't go, oh, it's the Macra. You don't know this, but I met them several years ago, and and they rattle off the details
or
of
the Movellans,
and the mere mention of it,
the pilot, they just throw in the Movellans, which I thought was hilarious. And
the mere mention of it from somebody like a character like the Doctor or somebody like RTD who's been around the block. There's a certain amount of trust and faith you're going to put into. Okay, cool, it's Macra, great.
I have no faith in the fans though. Not a bit.
No, I understand, Warren, that this is a homegrown theory on my own. So you are calling me out personally when it comes to
this. I plan to do more of that as time goes on.
Yeah,
we got maybe until May. So
maybe other people have mentioned this on the social medias and in person and stuff like that. But the first thing I thought of was Fendel when I saw that. So.
Yeah,
and to reinforce it, we all wait Steven's Fendel cosplay at Galley.
Oh my God.
It's just a big vacuum tube, or like, one of those big tubes for vacuuming.
Oh, I mean, I know.
Although you'd be better off cosplaying Wanda Ventum with the gold makeup and the painted on eyes.
I don't want to see Steven looking like that.
No, I don't want to do that either. But I tell you what, I know our friends Meta and Brian haven't been involved in the cosplay at Gallifrey One for a little while now, but I think what would lure them back is to do a life-size Fendel costume again.
Because they're going to haul that across the Atlantic Ocean.
Yeah, they've got to haul that across a transatlantic
yeah.
flight, so I wouldn't do
That's true. I think you'd have to fly and like make it and then drive to, I don't know.
They already moved across the world. That was, trust me on this, I know from Inside Dope, a lot of work. So I don't think they're going to go to any lengths to bring costumes. Not to speak for them, maybe they will, but their costumes are fantastic.
Yeah,
but I don't blame them for not wanting to do anything.
They're in a different hemisphere now.
Exactly,
in the Eastern Hemisphere, so it's tough to go across hemispheres. Yeah, well, they are.
Where's the divide?
Greenwich,
I don't even know.
I don't know. I just like saying of time.
Yeah, that's where it is. Yeah, that's the official, isn't it? That's the official meridian.
So you're saying the eastern part of England, is in the Eastern Hemisphere.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
I think is that the official divide?
I don't actually know.
If you go to Greenwich, you can see little stitch marks on the ground where they've
been to Greenwich
it
many times
together. I'm pretty sure that's how it
My
is.
dad's actually been there. My mom and dad went to England first time in like the
Greenwich,
90s.
really?
And my dad wanted to see where Greenwich Mean Time was. And my mom was, to this day, rolls her eyes at this. She's like, I went there. It was stupid.
I apologize for doubting you, but the prime meridian divides the globe into Eastern and Western hemispheres.
You gotta draw a line somewhere.
I totally believed you, Steven.
Yeah.
I don't believe you when it comes to Fendel. I'll believe you on that.
On prime meridian.
You're a map nerd. You know what you're talking about.
Yeah, like latitude, man. I mean, or longitude. Longitude. There you go. Longitude. Anyway, enough about that. Fendel returning, Millie Gibson leaving, but that's going to be in like 3 years' time when Doctor Who's on here. But it's returning in May. Returning in May. Our speculation, May 18th, Saturday, May 18th, the Saturday after the Eurovision final.
Or 25th, yeah.
Or 20. I think
somewhere in that neighborhood, yeah.
Yeah.
Somewhere there.
25th, because remember we just said 25th is Memorial Day weekend, and that's like a big day in movie theaters, supposedly.
Mm-hmm. Well, as much as they can make it this year.
Yeah, but I mean, Doctor Who's also a British show, so I don't know how much
British,
they care.
But Disney is going to have a lot more input into the first season, and is going to promote the hell out of it, and so I feel like promoting something.
So you started earlier and you went into Eurovision and Memorial Day because you can't start it later because that's June at that point.
Yeah, exactly. And
it's going to be. I think the 18th makes the most sense.
18th is because Memorial Day sort of begins like the Wednesday. The big movies come out on the Wednesday.
So if you're going to hype this, you got a whole week beforehand to do it, and then you got the 18th, and then you got time to decompress.
Exactly. Yeah. So 18th, book it. One thing that is happening, the BFI screening they did indeed choose Horror Fang Rock. We alluded to this on the last show that on the Monday, tickets will go on sale for a screening on February the 4th, which means that the Blu-ray set will probably be somewhat imminent. It sold out in 10 minutes. 10 minutes for the BFI screening of Horror Fang Rock.
Is that quicker than the Gala Fray hotel rooms? No, it isn't. Gala Fray is like 30 seconds.
Well, I don't know. It feels like the Gala Fray hotel rush is like a big giant bomb that goes off, and then you see like smatterings of little pockets of potential rooms being found for the next few minutes, but it sells out pretty quick.
Or next few hours even sometimes.
Yeah. So that probably means that it's coming out like in mid-February. I'll bet because they usually have those like in 1 or 2 weeks leading up to the actual release date. So anyway, Chris
could do. Those BFI screenings always sell out.
Mm-hmm.
So
right quick.
Yeah,
I'd like to go one day. Maybe they'll have one in July and or August when Warren and I are there.
I really do. And also, my sister's not going to want to go to that, so forget it.
Right.
She could not care less.
There's many things to do around where the BFI is, though.
Like Skaro, the staircase location that's used in Frontier in Space.
Exactly. That's very, very close.
Pretty much the only thing you can do really. But
go on the London Eye or go to whatever. But
London Eye is featured in Rose, the first episode of Exton, and nothing else. Never seen it in anything else. So yeah.
Or the hospital there that was featured in
Smith and Jones.
There is a John Colshaw sketch in the London Eye where he's doing his Tom Baker voice.
Oh, really? Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
But for timing, I mean, it all depends on when the next set gets announced.
It's true.
And I'm not even sure what the next one's possibly going to be.
Not that we would speculate on such things here.
I got to tell you, if I'm skedaddling around Europe, which I will be around that time, the last thing on my mind is some DVD set coming out. Yeah. How BFI screening falls into that.
Yeah, I don't know when the announcement would happen, but...
that's what I would have thought last time, but I still came home with a copy of season 9.
I say all this. If the opportunity presents itself, but...
I will be going there in early April, and I don't expect any sort of BFI screening or new release or whatever.
They're going to do an Image of the Fendal screening related to this episode.
Yeah.
I've already pre-ordered season 15 from the BBC shop, so I probably won't buy a copy at...
like you say, couch it in probably. But I don't have a PAL version that I can't use.
No, but the packaging is so much bigger, but it's so much nicer. And you got the book. And
the book, I know. Like, put the PDF of the book in.
This is another reason I avoid all this grief that I don't have to go through.
Whatever. Anyway, to recap, the Gallifrey One schedule out. Tom Baker is 90. Millie Gibson probably leaving partway through season 2 for Varada Sethu. Doctor Who returning May 18th, probably. The Fendal will feature and trigger a regeneration into the Ronnie. I'm just making that a bit up, but... well,
what if Jinx Monsoon is the Ronnie?
Maybe. No,
again,
obviously Indira Varma is the Ronnie because Duchess is literally Ronnie in... Hindi, I think it is, or something.
I'm just going to say, who cares? Just sum it all up. Who cares?
I love that we do this on video now because now I can see Warren's disappointment live.
Just tired. I'm so tired of all this nonsense.
Yeah, I'm supposed to having to imagine it.
That's it. Not that it was ever difficult to imagine.
No, just no. In my head, just like that. But that's it for the news portion of this podcast, folks. But now it's exciting. We get to look back and talk about Doctor Who director Michael Ferguson in the Miniscope.
Just as I thought. A Miniscope. Now this is outrageous. Who is responsible for this device?
Yes, welcome to the Miniscope. We dip back in time to the classic series again. Honestly, I think it's our favorite era to talk about when it comes to the Miniscope. Especially when it comes to directors, especially when it comes to our subject for the next 2 installments of the Miniscope. It's director Michael Ferguson, who directed 4 stories, 2 of which we'll talk about on this installment, 2 next time. This time is The War Machines and The Seeds of Death, 2 black and white stories, not counting Ambassadors of Death, which we all saw in black and white many times before we ever saw it in color. But that's on next week, along with The Clouds of Axos.
If you're searching the internet for him, just make sure you're not looking at Michael Ferguson, the ex-Auditor General of Canada.
No, that's a different one.
He had little, if anything, to do with Doctor Who.
Very little. I'd love to find...
I kind of hope he had something to do with Doctor Who somehow.
I'd love to try to find a connection somehow, and maybe you can. There was a game once, I don't know why I'm veering off topic so much, but where I would... this is back in my office days when I was bored and had time to kill, and I would open up Wikipedia and I would say, somebody suggest a topic to me. Okay, here's your topic. Okay, I have to open up Wikipedia and just get there from links that are on a page. So I have to think about the fewest amount of links to get to an actual thing. And if I can maybe open up Michael Ferguson, what was his title in Canada again?
Auditor General.
Auditor General, and see how many clicks it takes, and not just say Michael Ferguson disambiguation. That's cheating, and then see how many times it would get me to see his connection to Doctor Who. But we're not talking about that one anyway.
There used to be a web game called Web That Smut, which was pretty much the same thing, but you start at some innocuous website and see how few clicks it can take to find porn.
Well, fortunately, we're all more mature now, and the internet is as well.
Oh boy, is it ever,
No more porn on the internet.
No, it's gone. I know, it just completely vanished. It's so weird. Michael Ferguson, The War Machines, iconic show. Let's face it. It is. Every time I watch that, I go, "Wow, this is like It seems normal now because it's like Doctor Who, alien, and computers take over. They link up and try to take over the world. It's Doctor Who on Earth for the first time. Thinking this, you could remake The War Machines as a modern Who story, and no one would bat an eye. You would barely change a thing. You could even write a companion out halfway through the second episode, and no one would even notice. The War Machines, directed by Michael Ferguson, his first directing gig on Doctor Who. How did we divvy this up? Who watched The War Machines out of the two of you?
That was I.
That was I. Chris, what did you think? What did you write some notes down for your thoughts on The War Machines?
I wrote notes for stuff. Yes.
Okay.
I don't know. War Machines has always been kind of like I'm not going to say a favorite as such, but certainly a story I've always enjoyed. It's got the cheese factor of the giant ass war machines, which nowadays would be a lot more svelte and CG. But especially with some of the shots of the war machines, like the actual machines, I mean, where there is a very clear door with a handle on the back of them.
Right.
Awesome.
Yeah.
But no, it's one I've always enjoyed, and of course for us growing up in the KSPS and PBS Doctor Who era, that was the last William Hartnell story.
Oh yeah,
yeah, because
there was no Smugglers or 10th Planet for us to watch for their Lionheart distribution packages.
Well, let's face it, it was Time Meddler, War Machines, Dominators in that order when you were watching it on YTV. So yeah. Thankfully, all of Michael Ferguson's stuff exists, and it's never really been. Well, it has been missing. War Machines was found, but in our Doctor Who existence, it's always been there. So happy to have that. What notes did you have jotted down there, Chris, for War Machines? Anything you want to bring up, or are they just for yourself?
Oh, they're just for me. I'm just going to sit here and read them in silence, and everyone can kind of guess.
That's a good idea.
I mean, I don't know. You watched it as well, Stephen?
I watch them all.
What's your base opinion on it?
I like it. It's the first ever. So Ferguson got his start in Doctor Who as assistant floor manager, some member of the crew in the first Dalek story. It was in fact his arm holding the plunger as it advanced on Barbara at the end of episode 1. And then he subsequently went into the director's course, directed some episodes of Compact, I believe, which is a soap opera, and then he did this. And so the film work you see on this was his first time ever directing film, because it was all studio. And when you look at it, I'm talking about how War Machines is such a landmark story, is that, they did some, location shooting in Dalek Invasion of Earth, but it was, Barbara pushing Dortmund around in a wheelchair in deserted London. It looked impressive, but it was, there was no sound, for instance. Like, they did nothing with actual sound or dialogue. It was all just, kind of establishing shots, Daleks in the mine, that sort of thing. This feels like the first proper actual location shoot for Doctor Who.
The War Machines, as we've talked about before, was also the first, despite being as far into the run as it was the first quote unquote modern day story as well. So it's a lot easier to shoot something that is concurrent with reality for a time period versus something that's 2164.
Yeah. And it looks great. It's fun seeing London in 1966.
Oh my God! Yes. Wasn't in my notes, but I made mention to Kat as we were watching it the other day. Just looking at the post office tower in this, versus looking at the BT tower now,
right?
Just the sheer number. There's like one or two satellite / microwave dishes on it in the War Machines, versus like a crap ton now. It's just like It's not the BT tower is completely recognizable.
Oh yeah,
as the original post office tower, but still there's enough of a difference these days that you look at it and yeah. And then last time we were in London, we met up with a friend, Sammy, who, well, Warren, you know her quite well.
Yes.
And we were going around Fitzrovia and went to whatchamacallit, Bedford Square, where the TARDIS lands.
Nice.
And I'd been there before on a location tour that I did many years ago as well. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Fitzrovia is a nice little area of town.
It is. I remember we have such an emotional connection to the War Machines, just because we've all sort of been there and have like I remember, Warren, when we went there in 2015. Mm-hmm. Yep. I don't remember where you stayed, but our little apartment, the address of which I still remember to this day, and every time I need to fill something in for UK address, I use that place. I'm not going to say it now.
We stayed close, like a few blocks away in a hotel, I think.
Yeah, you were.
The name of the hotel.
We stayed there for like a week, and it was foggy when we got there. Rather stereotypically, but then the next morning the fog cleared, and I was going, I wonder where the post office. And we look out the window, and it's like
there's Wotan
there in the distance. And then, of course, if you've seen our silly video, which kicked off Gala Fray One in 2016, which was shot during that trip, it was all centered around the post office tower in Wotan.
Yep, so, it was. It takes me over. Yeah, become enthralled to it.
It does, and so it's there's such a connection to the War Machines, and later did I really come to a connection with Michael Ferguson. I mean, I think we'll get into his more iconic stuff probably in the second half a little bit, but the stuff that he does in here is cool because, Richard Martin, to name but one director of around that certain time, would be happy to sort of let the action play out and maybe cut cameras once or twice during a scene. Michael Ferguson, even now, is doing a lot of quick cuts. There's like the establishing shot in the Inferno nightclub. Swing in London hits Doctor Who for the first time. And there's, cut, all these little people dancing like, he's almost like auditioning for like Top of the Pops or something like that, which I thought was kind of cool. There's a real nice energy to it all, I thought, which is kind of cool. And it's not a thing that a lot of directors were doing back then. You can kind of tell about how some directors came up through the ranks of theater and were directing theater on TV, but Michael Ferguson, having become a director with TV, that was his first experience. You can tell that he's using the medium of TV as a proper way to tell a story, as opposed to just letting the action play out. So it's cool to see these new young directors versed in TV and technology and everything, which is something that stood out with me for War Machines.
Yeah, he was like, what, about 30 or something when we shot this stuff?
Something like that, yeah. Fairly young.
Not even quite 30.
Yep.
So yeah, quite young, as you say. I've got a handful of notes here from like mostly certain shots, but just even style, like in the Wotan room, office, whatever.
Warehouse.
Well, no, not the warehouse.
Oh, the computer room at the top of the post office tower.
In the post office tower.
Right.
Like, obviously it's so they did not get permission to shoot in or from the post office tower.
No.
So there's even to start the story, there's an establishing shot of like a pan across London, which was shot from Centre Point. But there's a bit early on in the Wotan computer room where the camera is, and this is studio, yeah, but the camera just starts out kind of high and just pans down a bit, and there's a lot of camera movement, just even side to side, things like that, where you've got this really reasonably cramped and confined room that feels a hell of a lot bigger just because of where and how the camera moves and shoots it.
Yeah, and there's a way that he, mostly in these first two stories, once the studio opens up a little bit more in color, it changes a bit. But oftentimes I've noticed in this one, there's a scene where Polly and Dodo are talking in the foreground while the Doctor and Professor Brett are in the background. I think there's another one where Ben and Polly are doing the same with there's one in the Seeds of Death, which also happens, where it's like
there's a lot of that in the Seeds of
Jamie
Death.
and Zoe are talking like in the foreground while the Doctor and someone else are doing something in the background, like basically having two sets of things in the same shot, which is cool. I mentioned all the quick cuts and everything, but sometimes all the action plays out, but it's two different sort of scenes happening in the same shot, which I think was kind of cool. It's very economical, I think, even then for a young director. You know,
I made a note that he's, and I'm sure we'll talk about this a lot more in Ambassadors of Death, but he's not afraid to do like very close-ups or hold shots for a long time as well. The one that I noted was the policeman coming toward the TARDIS in Bedford Square.
Right. When
the Doctor hangs the out of order sign on it, because the camera just sits there, like super low, just the policeman's just walking. Mm-hmm. And yeah, like it kind of, not quite the same thing, but it kind of makes me think of what Seth MacFarlane does with Family Guy, where he'll purposefully just add in completely unnecessary scenes, i.e. Peter fighting with a giant chicken for 3 minutes,
right,
just for the sake of wasting Fox's money.
I can admire that. I'm not a huge fan of McFarlane, but I do admire the gumption.
Yeah.
So like there's things that didn't need to happen and didn't need to be there, or didn't need to be done in the way that they were done, but they were done and they work.
Yeah. There's a very much just a young, hip action to it, with Michael Ferguson like directing this, like just it being in London, swinging London, modern day London for the first time. Like it feels like, I don't know if a more veteran director would have sort of had that sort of same connection, I suppose, to the feel and the vibe at the time. So I think his directorial style, I think, really meshes well. I wonder what William Hartnell thought of him, because he's got some nice moments. He's got the nice big push in at the end of episode 3, the cliffhanger, as the War Machine is apparently zooming in on him, and he's got some nice hero moments. There's a wonderfully framed shot in the press conference in episode 1 where Brett Crimpton and Sir Charles are talking, and in between, there's just in the background, you can see the Doctor eavesdropping, just looking around, doing his little, Hartnell face acting and everything, and it's a perfectly composed shot. And what I love about perfectly composed shots in the multicam studio era is that you're doing those live. You're not doing that as a special insert. You're not setting up a shot and hoping you can get it done. That's a rehearsed thing to get everyone standing exactly where they need to be and not moving too far in or not moving too far out. And it's just great. And I love little attention to detail when it comes to shots like that, because, you could have had the three of them talking and then cut away to William Hartnell sort of like, ooh, cut back, and Hartnell, oh, I'm listening, but you get it all in one to see that he's actually, properly eavesdropping as well. And you can see him. He's the focal point of the scene, he's not the star of the scene, but he's the focal point of the scene. And that's kind of cool.
Which makes it doubly interesting, considering your mention of his not being afraid to do lots of quick cuts.
Yeah.
Because that's the kind of thing where, traditionally you could imagine that sequence being cutting between the Doctor and the conversation, and it not happening. But that if it had been done the other way, it's like he'd be fine with doing it that way. Mm-hmm. But he just shows this way. And it's, just mixes it up a bit.
Yep.
The one thing I'd made mention of was there's one shot where so Wotan, when Wotan speaks, there's a big flashing light, and one scene he chooses to just zoom in on the flashing light, which, I mean, okay, fine, it's it serves a purpose of, okay, Wotan is speaking, etc. But you get these really massive, annoying lens flares, and it just kind of just throws it off. It just makes it a little awkward. And then as far as like economy is concerned, so kind of a thing to kind of tie these two back-to-back points together. In episode 2, when the Doctor's kind of is trying to deprogram Dodo, the camera is on Dodo most of that time.
Right.
The doctor's saying his lines, you hear him speaking, but the camera's just smack right in Dodo's face. So that's just another one of those things where, traditionally you could imagine kind of cutting back and forth, maybe a 2-shot, maybe just on the doctor, but no, it's quite the opposite where it's on Dodo's face and the doctor's just doing his thing.
Mm-hmm.
But by the same token, leading up to that, there's a desk lamp on a table next to the chair where Dodo's in. The doctor swings the desk lamp around and completely blocks Dodo's face in the shot. So whether that was purposeful, whether it's Ferguson, whether it's the camera guy, I don't know. But it's just a weird kind of blocking choice, if you can call a lamp's movement blocking.
Right.
So it just takes you out a little bit.
Yeah. It does establish the fact that I suppose that her face does have a big light on it in the close-ups later on, maybe,
Yeah, but do you necessarily have to block her face with a lamp? I don't know.
Maybe Hartnell will mess that up a little bit. Maybe.
I didn't even think about blaming him
for that.
Yeah, maybe he just pulled it ahead a little bit. No, well, we don't got time. We got time for retake. We got to go with it. It's almost 10 o'clock, Could have been that way.
Yeah, no, I didn't even think about Hartnell being the culprit, but yeah, that's possible as well.
Yeah, not the first time, not the last time that an actor moved something into the wrong position in a BBC TV production. Let me tell you.
I was also enjoying in the War Machine warehouse. There's I don't know if they just have the camera on a second floor or what, or a second floor equivalent, because whatever. But there's a lot of high shots.
Probably a crane cam. I'll bet.
Could be a crane cam.
Yeah.
But lots of high shots looking down on the warehouse floor and the people and whatnot. And it just really looks good. It really opens up the set.
It does. I think there's some good acting performances there. I thought that John Cater, who plays Crimpton, is very. I could see Richard Dreyfuss playing that exact role. There's a certain Richard Dreyfuss frenetic energy to his part, you know what I mean? Which I think would be kind of cool if they ever made it in the States. In the 70s, it would be Richard Dreyfuss, I think, with that part. Just reminds me very much of his part in Jaws, and indeed a little bit in Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Maybe even his Oscar-winning performance in The Goodbye Girl. I don't know. I haven't seen that movie, but from 1977. Anything else? Anything else you got about the War Machines you want to mention before maybe we'll bring Warren in and he talks about his memories of?
A few more things. I don't know if there's anything you want to jump in with at this point, but late episode 2, there's an establishing shot of the post office tower at a Dutch angle with a big crash zoom.
Love the zooms.
Really good.
Oh,
when I was watching that the other night, I texted you guys and said, Google Dutch angle. Did you?
No, because I already knew what it was.
Yeah, I knew what a Dutch angle was. Yeah,
because I found out from Spike Lee books in the early '90s.
That's not the point.
A lot of it.
Oh,
okay.
Do it right as I talk right now. Google Dutch angle. Everybody listening. Google Dutch angle.
Google Dutch angle. Because I know that you have to go to google.com. Is that right? Is that the www.google.com? Is that
sure
how it works?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. I have to.
What am I missing here? I'm just seeing a bunch of Dutch angles.
Just kind of look here. I'm going to go to google.com and hit Dutch angle. Oh, it's slightly off. You see, it's slightly off.
I didn't even notice that.
It's clever.
Yeah. Okay, way to go, Google.
Very clever.
Yeah.
Many other crimes are pardoned.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you scroll down the page, the gap between the text on the left-hand side gets bigger and bigger at the top as you go down the page. But yes, Google Dutch angle, and the whole page is shown at a Dutch angle.
That is funny.
All right, okay.
That is funny.
Anyway, one thing that I didn't care for, so when Ben first escapes from the warehouse and runs into Hypno Polly, as I called her,
right?
There's so he's in one room of the warehouse, and there's a war machine there, and it's got the pervasive, the whirring sound. So he runs into this other room, escaping, runs into Polly, and this whirring sound from the war machine is still as loud, as present, covering up half the dialogue. Just, a little icky.
Icky. Wow.
A little icky. Could have done without that. And then similar but better.
Right.
In episode 3, there's the battle between the army and the war machines, and there's like superimposed smoke on the screen, so it's always there. which just really, really looks good.
Yeah, you know, it beats setting off real fires in a TV studio. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, there's other smoke bombs and whatever going off, but there's just on top of those, there's just this like as though it was like a, I don't know, like a clear thing, whatever,
right,
just in front of the camera that had smoke on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I also noticed, like, we'll get into this in the second part, is that he uses a couple of back projection slides as sets. Like, you know, the newsroom is one of them. There's one of London, basically the War Machine traveling down the street. I think it's filmed at Ealing. I don't think it's in the studio. I think it's at Ealing, and they just use like the back projection for that as well. And you know, it kind of points to an interest in rear projection things like color separation overlay, which would be coming in a 3 or 4 years time.
It'll really be coming in.
Yeah,
too.
Really be coming in. So I thought that was kind of neat. One thing that I wasn't pleased with, and it's always kind of like confused me, is that there's a scene where after, I think it's in part 4, obviously it's in part 4 because they've disabled the War Machine, and the Doctor's looking around at it, and he pulls his cloak around the War Machine, and because Ferguson sort of sticks with it on a wide shot, it looks like something falls, and Ben reaches down and picks it up and looks kind of sheepish and walks away. And it's so much so that I think some people have thought that it's a goof, that Hartnell knocked something off the War Machine and Michael Craze picked it up, noticing something, because they never even focus on what it is. It's the Doctor's key. It's vital to the to the actual resolution of the episode when Ben and Polly go into the TARDIS at the very end of the episode, and they kind of miss it in episode 4, which is too bad. Maybe that's the sign of a young director not getting the coverage he needed in that particular scene, because I think there should have been a close-up on the ground of the key to say, oh, it's the key. Look at that. Well, and then maybe a shot back up to Ben thinking, oh, but he's dropped his key and stuff, and then walks off. So we haven't actually established what the hell that thing was that happened. So that was a bit of a missed opportunity, I thought. I'm gonna chalk it up to new director nerves, perhaps, from Michael Ferguson. You know. Got anything else? Got anything else about it? Maybe ask Warren about how much he enjoyed Wotan smashing boxes. Is that a thing, Warren? You want to talk about Wotan smashing boxes?
The only thing that sticks with me with the War Machines, I don't dislike it or anything, but the only thing that really sticks with me is how, and this has nothing to do with Michael Ferguson or the original shooting, how good the restored 35mm looks. Because it just looks so tremendous. Like, so I guess that is a bit Michael Ferguson, because he was out there shooting this thing, but
he was.
That's kind of the only thing that really I remember consistently about that story.
Mm-hmm. We did a commentary on it many years ago. Yeah, there is, I think, one reel. I don't think all the location filming exists like the original film rushes, but that one reel of 35mm does, because the BBC used 35mm for film location shoots up until 67. So at the end of Tomb of the Cybermen was the last block that they used for that, and then when they went to shoot in the mountains of Wales for the Abominable Snowman at the beginning of the next block, in order to save money, they started using 16mm, and so it gets worse. So location film looks worse.
Especially in color. That's when it really starts to look like the 70s.
I know, it's kind of sad.
How much of that is us identifying the 70s with bad film, and how much is the 70s? You know what I mean? Where does one end and the other begin?
I know. It's a cat and mouse or chicken and egg story, but... Yeah.
Apparently, in the first 3 episodes, Wotan receives a credit as Wotan.
Wotan.
The only time a fictional character was credited as itself in the series.
So awesome.
Well, maybe he's not fictional. Maybe that's why they're crediting him.
Maybe it's
he
real.
Doesn't wreak his revenge.
Yep. Maybe he's real. He's always real.
War Machines was junked back in the day as well, and. In 1984, copies of all 4 episodes were returned from Nigeria. We record this just after the 10th anniversary of the announcement / release of Enemy of the World and Web of Fear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and even then was
located in Nigeria.
It was also, I think it was a different place in Nigeria, I think. But yeah, War Machines and Time Meddler came back from Nigeria, and then they found and even then, it was incomplete. So when we saw it on YTV back in the early 90s, it was incomplete because in 96, Damien Shanahan helped track down the censor clips from Australia. And so some of the stuff that was cut out of the War Machines was finally reinstated. So a lot of us, for the first time, only saw the proper actual version of it as best can be. There was just still some rough bits in there that had to sort of be patched around and used, like, zoom-ins of existing shots and everything else by the restoration team. But it's a pretty good looking product now.
There's a little documentary about the reconstruction, restoration, whatever, of the episodes,
right,
for the DVD release on the DVD.
There is a very good DVD. I look forward to the Blu-ray coming out someday. It might be the last one, given how few episodes exist for it and how many need to be animated, I suppose, to close those gaps. So that DVD of the War Machines is the best possible example of things that we have for it for now. So.
Yep, as you talked about earlier, jumping from the Time Meddler, which closed out season 2, to this, which closed out season 3.
Yep.
And then to the Dominators. Yeah, there ain't much in between. So.
No, there's not. But a remarkably small gap between Michael Ferguson stories when you think about it, if you're watching this in the early 90s, sequentially, of stuff that existed, because the Seeds of Death is right around the corner. The third last Patrick Troughton story, mostly rewritten by Terrence Dix.
Written by Brian Hales. I noticed that right off the top. I'm like, oh, well, I guess it didn't.
Yeah. Another ghost credit for Brian Hales, apparently. Yes, Ice Warriors return. There's a moon base. There's Earth. There's T-Mat. There's foam. There's the Doctor being goofy. There's rockets. There's silly costumes. It's the Seeds of Death, though. Warren, you watched this one. What are your impressions of this one, specifically, if you can, to the direction of it?
Oh, yeah. Well, my notes are, as usual, per episode and half direction and half my own silly observations.
Right.
But yeah, I noticed, like you said before, about a lot of foreground and background stuff. There's a great thing in the first episode starts similar to the War Machines, where it kind of descends from behind a piece of machinery to sort of look in and sort of a circular portal to see what everybody's doing in this office. And there's a shot where Miss Kelly is walking. She's behind this kind of pane of that, that bubbly glass, cubic bubbles. And then she comes from behind it, and then she goes back to the background to talk to her boss. And it's all done in one shot, and it really works really well. There's a lot of really good, not as much quick cutting and more one-ers in this than there is. And the other thing I noticed that's kind of a big deal is that Solar shows up like pretty damn quick for a monster, but you only see him from his POV till the very end.
Yeah.
Maybe till the second. I don't remember.
No, very end of episode 1, the cliffhanger.
Yeah, very end of episode 1. So he's like the world's worst boss to these guys until you find out he's an Ice Warrior, right? He's just hovering over them and keeps asking them to do something. And they're like scared, looking at the camera. And I just thought it really was pretty effective when all said and done. Another thing I thought that was interesting is how they're talking about how space travel is completely obsolete, and we hadn't even been to the moon yet. Like they're just scoffing all these rockets. And then in episode 2, there's a shot in space. The model shots aren't particularly convincing, but when you look at actual real space footage, they aren't far off,
right?
Like in terms of where the placement of everything is. Like when you see the rocket and the Earth behind it, I'm like, you could see that to this day when you see a SpaceX launch. You see the exact same shot, right? So from the rocket's nose cone, and so it was kind of cool to see that when people really didn't know what they were doing. Like one of the other things I noticed is, and this happens in Claws of Axos too, is there's a whole video monitor checklist sequence. So it's kind of like done as live, and I assume somebody else, like the star, or I think Patrick Troughton in this case, is on camera somewhere else doing this, like back and forth live with people.
Yep.
Because or else they're doing a very good job of faking it, because I'd never really seen that in Doctor Who before. Like, it's kind of taken as read now, but back then that must have been fairly difficult to pull off.
You mean like
and they do it a couple times here,
like on camera, so to speak, like on the TV, that sort of thing,
on the monitor itself and interacting live with the other person.
Oh yeah,
right?
that's live. That's them on another set on another camera.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, and that was fairly rare at the time, I would think.
Yeah, because video TVs. I mean, what's more futuristic than video phones?
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah, totally. And now we just go, oh. I'm not going to answer my phone, let alone a video. What are you talking about?
FaceTime call, whatever. Come on.
FaceTime. Like, I do that once a year with my parents. That's it. Teams calls. Video calls are a nightmare now.
You're right. Exactly. You thought they looked ahead and thought that maybe space travel would be passe. No. It's video calls. That is what became passe.
When you hear do, you're like, oh, no, not today. No. Anyway, to get back to the directing.
Yes.
Well, actually, it's not directing, but Miss Kelly, they praise her up and down for how amazing she is, and rightly so, because she is the best person for the job, and yet she still has to deal with 60s nonsense. Like, they're all like demeaning her all the time. Like, you guys just said she was the best. What the hell is wrong with you?
Yeah.
You even listen to yourselves? Like, what's going on here? I thought the pace is really quite quick, which I thought was nice. And there's some really good shots later on where, well, there's a really funny shot where Zoe is sneaking past an ice where by way of a giant wall of lights that would clearly show what she's up to, but it's a really good slinking and it makes for a really cool looking image, even though it's patently ridiculous. And then later there's like a tete-a-tete between two characters with that thing behind them, and it looks cool there too.
It looks, he really uses that light wall really well. Yeah,
he does.
Yeah.
What else here? We got some other stuff to do with directing.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Well, one thing I did say that isn't directing is why at the climax of episode 5 is the Doctor voguing.
he's
freaking out. He's doing that weird arm move that Madonna used to do, right?
With all the foam, and I mean, this thing may as well have been shot in Ibiza. So. The doctor voguing makes sense.
That's true.
That was one thing I was wondering about as I was watching it, looking at all this foam everywhere. I'm like, they couldn't have done this on the studio floor. This have been a nightmare to clean up. Like, did they go to like a pool and then build a set in a pool?
Film studio.
It was Ealing. It was the Ealing Film Studio.
They did it in the studio.
Yeah, they did. Well, because they do have a water tank at Ealing, I believe. They actually use it in the War Machines. That little pit, that construction pit, that's actually the water tank. But it was
so I'm
water.
kind of half right on this. Yeah. Okay. There's a really cool shot in episode 4 where it's low to the floor, and it kind of adds a sense of dread. Like, I mean, really low to the floor.
Yeah.
And there's a POV shot, or like a handheld shot at the beginning, which clearly is like another guy underneath the camera doing some shaking, but it's supposed to look like POV, right? And I'm like, got to give him points for effort. I'm like, who else is doing that at the time, right? So
yeah.
And what else we got here? I did put, we're in a space museum. No need for threats, Doctor. We don't threaten us with a space museum. What are you doing? And let's see what else here. Oh, I also said, why stop at the moon? We have no excuse. Also, Ottawa gets mentioned for the first of 2 times. Toronto gets mentioned.
That's
so
right.
Like a good Canadian. I'm very excited. Any recognition whatsoever.
Oh yeah, you could count. It would not take us long to count the number of mentions of Canada, especially Classic Who.
And they're mostly here, frankly.
I know what you mean.
And there's one other thing, which is again another aside. It's when they're trying to get to the rocket pad or whatever, and Miss Kelly goes, "Well, I found a petrol car in a museum." I'm like, "That sounds awful convenient." Where? Not the museum we're in right now. Like, that's another entirely different museum. Okay, sure, whatever. but I mean, overall, I thought it was pretty fast paced for what it is for 6 episodes of old Doctor Who. And there's a lot of oneers and not much cutting back and forth as you think.
No, I do find that it's a little more. Not sedate, but I mean, there's the launch sequence, which is kind of cool. You know, where it's like, you know, they're doing the flight check-in, and they're like snapping, boom. This sort of like it's almost done to a countdown, which I think was kind of cool.
Yeah.
And then the backwards projection numbers on Miss Kelly's face as they do the countdown, I think it was kind of cool. There's another instance of. There's a shot in the War Machines where Flash, as his name is in the credits, is trying to hit on Polly before Ben comes along and beats him up, and it's a nicely shot through like a wagon wheel. It's sort of on the wall, and the camera shoots through that. And here, like you were saying earlier before that first shot, where there's like the sort of the plexiglass. Stuff with wind on, and there's even a scene with Jamie and Zoe, I think, after they've come back down from the moon, where like they're drinking their little sippy cups and stuff, and that's shot through,
right? Yeah.
You know, another little window. Like, there's just interesting ways of making dull scenes of people talking to each other look interesting.
Take that silhouette thing with Slara and Fuchsia,
exactly. You know, take a note, modern TV. You know, I'm speaking at you, Ahsoka. There's ways to doing it. Terry Scully as Fusham is superb.
He's a weasel.
He's
good at it.
He is. It's such a great performance. I don't know how much of that comes from the actor and how much Michael Ferguson pushed that on him. I've seen him in the Survivors. He was in Survivors for a little bit, and he was really good in that too. I think he's just a really good actor at playing that kind of character, where he's, I want to live. He's got like self-preservation on his mind.
Yeah.
But he's also, he's not trying to get people killed. He is legitimately like trying to delay them as much as possible, and ends up sort of being the hero.
Of playing cowardice that's much more convincing than Americans, because Americans, it's just in the national character to be a tough guy, no matter how much of a tough guy you actually are. You don't actually buy it if an actor is being a coward in an American movie. Like Edge of Tomorrow, good movie, but for half of it, Tom Cruise is a coward, and you're like, I don't buy it. The Brits, for whatever reason, are really good at playing those guys. I don't know why.
Well, at the risk of insulting all of our British audience, or perhaps complimenting them, they are cowards by nature, it feels like. They're just...
Okay, yes.
Cowardice.
Americans are all very brave and strong. No, that's not true either. But
there's ones that go off and run empires and stuff like that. And the rest of them, they just sort of hang back and complain about the weather. And usually when they complain about the weather, it means that it's too hot. Because that's often what British people do, is they complain when it's too warm, not that it's raining too much. So I feel like there's a natural streak of cowardice in you, British people.
Yeah, not like Canadians. Not like those tough as nails Canadians.
Yeah, we go out in the winter and put a hat on maybe if it gets too cold, but otherwise we're fine. We're fine in Canada.
Stop asking.
Anyway, Terry Scully is just fantastic in this. I just, he's so great. I just love he is genuinely looking to help, but he still puts this front up about how he has to keep, placating the Ice Warriors. And then there's that shot where they're, and that's a very revealing scene where, Slar is really taking him into his confidence and just like, you're an okay guy. You're going to take you on a little bit here. You're all right with us. But
Snake Man like you.
Yeah. Even though he has helped, Zoe and, the other guy played by Christopher Call, I can't think of his name now, Phibbs, or I think is to get back to Earth, and like he's even puts on a front when Miss Kelly finally gets there and everything. It's a very complicated and pretty good performance. So I want
one other observation that's rather silly, which is that whenever, and this happens with the Sontaran experiment, it happens with Davros on video in Remembrance of the Daleks. Whenever you have the guy in charge and he's on video, it just makes him look kind of dumb, because the Grand Marshal here, I think I wrote him out as Ice Warrior Jerry Garcia. Like, it just looks like it's something that they last minute had to slap together. Oh yeah, we need the Grand Marshal. I don't know, put a kind of a robe on him, and it kind of looks like a beard, and he's got some sparklies on him. Like he's got some little gold stars or something. Like he just looks like the most slapped together villain you ever saw on this video screen. It doesn't look good. Just like whoever the hell this Sontaran experiment commander, whatever his name was.
Kevin Lindsay, playing both Sontarans, and it's Graham Lehman who actually plays the Ice Warrior commander. Graham Lehman, who was an actor who used a wheelchair, but didn't necessarily want that to get out into the public as much because he thought it might affect his acting chances, let's face it. And so whenever you see him in Doctor Who, he's in like 4 or 5 Doctor Who episodes, he's always in seated positions, or like here in basically just appearing on a screen and stuff, because he didn't have the full use of his legs. So good on directors. The performance
isn't bad. It's just the costumes kind of.
Yeah, I know, but but good on for directors for keep basically giving him a career without sort of saying don't hire him. He doesn't because there was a much more of a stigma at the time for if I look at FDR, for crying out loud. So I thought that was kind of cool, but I know what you mean. It just looked like your regular Ice Warrior helmet with
craft stuff thrown on it.
Macaroni and sparkles.
Like some kindergarten action thrown in there.
Exactly. Yeah. I've always had a soft spot for Seeds of Death. The chase sequence was great, where Troughton's running around and it plays it kind of for laughs a little bit, but just the Hall of Mirrors stuff and everything else, it's all played with music.
A lot of Miralon in this too.
A lot of Miralon. That's where that's pretty cool to come up. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
I just noticed here, I also have written down, terrible invasion plan will invade England where it's sure not to rain.
I know. Did not Google. Always research. your planet that you're invading before you go. Where is it least like to have rain? And that it's cold too. Like honestly, if the Ice Warriors like invaded, I don't know, the Sahara
Jamaica
Desert,
or someplace.
Yeah,
somewhere warm. Costa Rica
and dry, they might have been able to walk in and take over Earth, but they
Texas. They fit it just right. Nobody noticed they had been invaded in Texas.
That's true.
This guy seemed reasonable.
That's probably a TMAT location there too. Yeah.
See also M. Night Shyamalan, was it Signs?
Yeah, let's invade Earth, even though water will kill us. What's it made of? Mostly water.
Mostly water.
Yeah.
Bags of mostly water. Chris, did you have any memories or contributions to the Seas of Death?
I've not watched Seeds of Death in forever, and it's just one of those ones that I just keep thinking I just want to sit down and watch. And I thought about trying to do that for this, and I just didn't have the time. But one of my biggest memories is the foam, and Troughton just flailing around in it like a clown, and it's so cute.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, it's one I've always enjoyed. I mean, you got the fun computer voice for TMATs, and as Warren pointed out, mentions of Canada, 2 Canadian cities.
Yep.
Which always made me cheer at least a little bit watching it as a much younger person.
Ottawa and Toronto, the only 2 Canadian cities that existed in 1969, so it's pretty good.
There, yeah.
Yeah.
And I dig the Ice Warriors.
Yeah.
I don't know why, because the Ice Warriors, in so many ways, the Ice Warriors just should not work. And I mean, the costumes quite often don't, and the lumbering and whatever, but I still love them.
Yeah.
I always found it cool that they were the one villain that they turned legit good for a while. And it kind of worked.
Yeah, Peloton. Yeah, Chris Peloton, yeah.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
And also, Alan Bennion, who played Slar, was also, same guy who played Isler and Azix here.
His voice is great, yeah.
Yeah, so he's like, it's not quite for life, but I mean, if you play an Ice Warrior, it's almost like you're guaranteed to get multiple gigs on Doctor Who. Like, see also Sonny Caldenez.
Sonny Caldenez. Played them all. Yep, was in all 4 stories, so... Yeah. Also, bring it back one last time to Michael Ferguson, a hat tip to back in the days when directors sort of had carte blanche in creating title sequences, because the War Machines one with the crazy computer numbers was really cool. And then, of course, here we have those awesome little story specific too. What I like is that it's not just the same film sequence of planets and the moon and stuff. It's like the action is on the moon on this one. So the opening titles finish on the moon. It's actually establishing the scene as well. I thought that was really cool. Of course, he does it one more time in Doctor Who, which we'll get to next time. But it was cool to see directors, really think about title sequence as well as putting a stamp on an episode. So good on Michael Ferguson for doing that. Yeah, and it's we'll talk more about that next week, I suppose. We will indeed. Where we cover the Ambassadors of Death. I cannot wait. And the Claws of Axos. That's on the second part of our 2-part miniscope on Doctor Who director Michael Ferguson. Hope you join us for that. Our Patreon supporters have enjoyed this earlier than our regular feed, so thank you for your support for that. Hope you enjoyed this. Hope you enjoyed the next installment. I know that I'm looking forward to it here on Radio Free Skaro. So until next time, I am Stephen in Edmonton.
Warren in Vancouver.
And Chris in Edmonton.
So long for now.